With the recent less than positive reaction to chapter 239 of JJK, it's becoming clear to me that people don't want to see Kenjaku yapping in a forest. But if I'm being completely honest, I really enjoyed this chapter, and don't hate me for this, but it's quite possibly my favourite chapter post Gojo's death, as what this chapter was all about was the exploration of Kenjaku and his motive, as although yes we have known about his grand plan to use Tengen to force a mass merger, what we didn't understand was why he wanted to do this. What were the reasons behind this plan he'd been trying to enact for centuries, and in this chapter that has started to become clear, as when confronted with his reasons for doing all this, what does Kenjaku reply? That don't you want to see something you never seen before? Don't you want to find out if something you thought was interesting is actually interesting? Isn't that what living is? And this here is one of the most important pieces of dialogue we have gotten around Kenjaku, not just recently, but possibly in the entire series. As although before when he was talking to Choso he did explain that he wanted to do it just to see, the fact that he now says that this is what he defines life as is what is very important. As let's go back to the beginning of the series, back when Yuji was acting as an actual MC. What was the moment that sparked his character development? It wasn't becoming a sorcerer, nor was it eating Sukuna's finger. It was hearing his grandfather's last words. The long and short of these words being that life is short so you can't do everything and help everyone, but you can at least, whenever you get the chance, help people, so when it is your time to go, you'll be surrounded by the people that care for you. It's these words that spur Yuji into action to save his friends. He didn't have to go in there, he could have trusted it to Megami, but he wanted to make something of his life and so he jumped into action. Because what Yuji desires is to find purpose in his life and experience a true death. He wants his life to end once it is fulfilled. This is made even more clear once he is brought to Jujutsu High, when his neck is put on the chopping block, when his execution isn't a matter of if, but when. His life was cut short, given a time limit, and yet he still perseveres to help others. He agrees to hunt down and eat Sukuna's fingers because, as Gojo tells him, it's something only he can do, and it is something that will save people. And now compare all this to Kenjaku. Kenjaku is someone who's been alive for centuries, who has literally lived multiple lives, someone whose technique outright spits in the face of death. To contrast Yuji the protagonist with only so long left to live, we were introduced to the antagonist who never had to fear death. Yuji, as said, is seeking to find purpose in his short life. On the whole, the idea of finding meaning in a fleeting life is what a lot of the series is about. It's why death is so prevalent in the series and the mortality rate of sorcerers is highlighted, because to be a sorcerer, to risk your life for the sake of others, is always going to end up as a short one. Yet the fact our characters persevere despite that, be it for money, or because they can help others, they choose to of their own volition because those reasons are what give their life purpose. Kenjaku spits in the face of both Yuji's goal and the wider themes of the series, because he is someone who no longer cares about such things. He does everything he does for just the simple reason that he can, because it's something he calls interesting, just something to pass the time because it's something he can do. One of the things that makes life so precious is that it is so short. Death is feared because it is the end, but at the same time without an end nothing really matters. Kenjaku's goal has no personal motive, it's no story of revenge or craving for power, it's just something cool he wants to try out. Living is just experiencing new things, that is what he believes, because at this point, that's all his life is, just a series of never-ending experiences. Yet Kenjaku himself says that due to this he has truly lived, something I find hard to believe is true given how in his over 1,000 years of life, he still is yet to accomplish anything. Take the Death Room paintings, he threw them aside as they were failures. They are a perfect example of this constant search for something that doesn't exist, something that will give him meaning. The reason being that when you have all the time in the world, there is no reason to make exceptions or settle for things. You can just keep searching for something better, more interesting. But by doing so you end up never finding anything. By aiming for the merger, he is literally going against the concept of fate, something that time and time again makes him fail. Yet because he has all the time in the world, he just tries again and again, because it doesn't matter how long it takes as long as he accomplishes it. Because as said, the finality of life is not something he cares for or has to be concerned by. As he says, he has lived across 1,000 years of conflicts and alliances, and as such believes the world to be a cursed one. He despises the modern world because it seeks to maintain the status quo. He dislikes the Japanese for incorrectly believing their lives are stable, when in reality, they're always on the brink of ruin. He has become disillusioned with life because he no longer understands what life is like. The reason people can live stable lives even though the world is on the brink of ruin, that they can be happy despite the fact they will one day die, is precisely because they know one day that ruin will come, that death will take them. The populace can live happy because they know they only have so long left, and so choose to search for something that can fulfill them within that short time. But understanding these things is beyond Kenjaku, as he can't relate. Even back in the Heian era, Kenjaku rejected this fixation on fulfilling a short life. It's why he offered sorcerers the chance to escape death, to become cursed objects and incarnate in the future to live again. He saw death as not something important that brings our lives meaning, but as an obstacle to reaching some greater goal. To be happy with just the small things. That's a concept that disgusts Kenjaku to his very core. Though even if he is the one who stands against death, it's not like he cares about life either. I mean, his obsession with the merger is a result of his lack of care for life. He'd sacrifice all of Japan just to make something interesting, to give a new stimulus. I mean, given the events of the Culling game, it's obvious he cares little for life, and that he doesn't care how people die. Once again, a big contrast to Yuji, who spends a big part of chapter 1 going on about wanting to give people a true death. That people die, and so when the time comes, he wants them to die properly. Overall then, if the big theme of JJK is how one chooses to find meaning in their short life, and have a meaningful death, be it through having a fight where they could finally be understood, or challenging the personification of the society that oppressed them, then is the one who not only acts as the series' main antagonist, but also one who literally stands against all of Jujutsu society, of course also be one who opposes this theme. Kenjaku could never find purpose, and so keeps chasing the next interesting high. When you're doing your big evil plan, just because it might be interesting, it becomes painfully obvious how hollow one's soul must be. And if I had to speculate, I'd say his death will be one that leaves him unsatisfied, making him realise how little he actually accomplished, even given his centuries-long existence. And if you want to support this channel even further, then perhaps pledge to my Patreon, or become a channel member so you can get your name at the end of the video, like Hikari Desu, Rinjak9696, General Tonyos, Mr. Sputum, and Matthias Rowett. So with all that said and done, I've been Seth the Sin, the Deadly Sin of Geek, and I'm signing out. Stay safe, everyone.